Now let us discuss in this class accessing databases with JDBC. So types of JDBC drivers. Let us see how many types of JDBC drivers are there and how they can be used to access database. So the types of JDBC drivers are basically JDBC driver is a software component that enables Java application to interact with the database. There are four types of JDBC drivers: JDBC ODBC bridge driver, native API driver, partially Java driver, network protocol driver, fully Java driver, thin driver, fully Java driver. These are the four different types of JDBC drivers. Now let us see one by one. JDBC ODBC bridge driver. The JDBC ODBC bridge driver uses ODBC driver to connect to the database. The JDBC ODBC bridge driver converts JDBC method calls into the ODBC function calls. This is now discussed because of a thin driver. So this is the architecture of JDBC ODBC driver. JDBC API, Java application, JDBC ODBC bridge driver, ODBC driver, vendor database library, database. Oracle does not support the JDBC ODBC bridge from Java 8. Oracle recommends that you use JDBC drivers provided by the vendor of your database instead of JDBC ODBC bridge. Advantages: easy to use, can be easily connected to any database. Disadvantages: performance degraded because JDBC method call is converted into the ODBC function calls. The JDBC driver needs to be installed on the client machine. The ODBC driver needs to be installed on the client machine. The second type of JDBC driver is native API driver. The native API driver uses the client-side libraries of the database. The driver converts JDBC method calls into native calls of the database API. It is not written entirely in Java. So its architecture is JDBC API, Java application, native API driver, vendor database library, and database. Advantages: performance upgraded than JDBC ODBC bridge driver. Disadvantages are the native driver needs to be installed on each client machine. The vendor client library needs to be installed on client machine. Another JDBC driver is network protocol driver. The network protocol driver uses middleware application server that converts JDBC calls directly or indirectly into the vendor specific database protocol. It is fully written in Java. Its architecture is JDBC API, Java application, network protocol driver, middleware, that is server side database. Advantages: no client side library is required because of application server that can perform many tasks like auditing, load balancing, logging, etc. Disadvantages: network support is required on client machine, requires database specific coding to be done in the middle tier. Maintenance of network protocol driver becomes costly because it requires coding to be done in the middle tier. And the last driver is thin driver. The thin driver converts JDBC calls directly into the vendor specific database protocol. That is why it is known as thin driver. It is fully written in Java language. So its architecture is JDBC API, Java application, thin driver, database. Advantages: better performance than all other drivers. No software is required at client side or server side. Disadvantages: drivers depend on the database. So the architecture of JDBC is JDBC architecture consists of two-tier and three-tier processing models to access a database. They are as described below. Two-tier model A Java application communicates directly to the data source. JDBC driver enables the communication between the application and the data source. Architecture of JDBC: application, Java servlet, applet, etc. JDBC API, JDBC driver, manager, SQL server, Oracle server, data source. JDBC classes and interfaces. The java.sql package contains classes and interfaces for JDBC API. A list of popular interfaces of JDBC API are given below: driver interface, connection interface, statement interface, prepared statement interface, callable statement interface, result set metadata interface, database metadata interface, row set interface. A list of popular classes of JDBC API are driver manager class, blob class, clob class, types class. Basic steps involved in developing JDBC applications. There are 5 steps to connect any Java application with the database using JDBC. These steps are: register the driver class, create connection, create statement, execute queries, close connection. So let us take up the first step, register the driver class. The for name method of class is used to register the driver class. This method is used to dynamically load the driver class. Syntax of for name method: it is public static void for name string class name throws class not found exception. Since JDBC 4.0 explicitly registering the driver is optional, we just need to put vendor's jar in the class path, and then JDBC driver manager can detect and load the driver automatically. So example to register the Oracle driver class. Here Java program is loading Oracle driver to establish database connection. Class dot for name oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver, create the connection object. The get connection method of driver manager class is used to establish connection with the database. Its syntax is get connection method, public static connection, get connection string URL throws SQL exception, public static connection get connection string URL string name string password throws SQL exception. Example to establish connection with the Oracle database: connection con equal to driver manager dot get connection JDBC Oracle thin at localhost exe system password. Create the statement object. The create statement method of connection interface is used to create statement. The object of the statement is responsible to execute queries with the database. Its syntax is create statement, public statement, create statement throws SQL exception. Example to create the statement object: statement stm equal to con.create statement. Execute the query. The execute query method of statement interface is used to execute queries to the database. This method returns the object of result set that can be used to get all the records of a table. Its syntax is execute query method, public result set execute query string SQL throws SQL exception. Example is result set rs equal to statement dot execute query select from emp, while rs dot next system dot out dot println rs dot get int 1 plus rs dot get string 2. Close the connection object. By closing connection object, statement and result set will be closed automatically. The close method of connection interface is used to close the connection. Syntax of close method is public void close throws SQL exception. Example to close connection, con.close. Since Java 7, JDBC has ability to use try with resources statement to automatically close resources of type connection, result set and statement. Java database connectivity with Oracle. To connect Java application with the Oracle database, we need to allow 5 following steps. In this example, we are using Oracle 10G as the database. So we need to know following information for the Oracle database. Driver class. The driver class for the Oracle database is oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver. Connection URL. The connection URL for the Oracle 10G database is jdbc oracle thin at localhost 1521 where jdbc is the API, Oracle is the database, thin is the driver, localhost is the server name on which Oracle is running. We may also use IP address. 1521 is the port number and XE is the Oracle service name. You may get all these information from the tnsnames.org file. Username. The default username for the Oracle database is system. Password. It is the password given by the user at the time of installing the Oracle database. Create a table. Before establishing connection, let's first create a table in Oracle database. Following is the SQL query to create a table. Create a table emp id number 10, comma name character 240, age number 3. Example to create Java application with Oracle database. In this example, we are connecting to an Oracle database and getting data from the EMP table. Here system and Oracle are the username and password of the Oracle database. Import java.sql.star class Oracle connection, public static void main string arguments try class dot for name oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver connection con equal driver manager dot get connection jdbc oracle thin localhost. Create the statement of statement stmt equal to con dot create statement result set rs equal to is statement dot execute query select from emp while rs dot next system dot out dot learn rs dot get int 1 as rs dot get string 2 rs dot get string 3. Close the connection of con dot close. Catch exception e system dot out dot println e. The above example will fetch all the records of emp table. To connect Java application with the Oracle database, ojdbc14.jar file is required to be loaded. Two ways to load the jar file. Paste the ojdbc14.jar file in jar library exit folder. Set class path. Paste the ojdbc14.jar file in jar folder. First search the ojdbc file, then go to folder and paste the jar file here. Another way is setting class path. Java database connectivity with MySQL. To connect Java application with MySQL database, we need to follow 5 following steps. In this example, we are using MySQL as the database, so we need to know following information for the MySQL database. Driver class. The driver class for the MySQL database is com.mysql.jdbc.driver. Connection URL is the connection URL for the MySQL database is jdbc mysql / localhost 3306 /sonu, where jdbc is the API, MySQL is the database, localhost is the server name on which MySQL is running. We may also use IP address 3306 is the port number and Sono is the database name. We may use any database in which, in such case, we need to replace the Sono with our database name. Username, the default username for MySQL database root. Password, it is the password given by the user at the time of installing the MySQL database. In this example, we are going to use root as the password. Let's first create a table in the MySQL database. But before creating table, we need to create database first. So create database, Sonu, use Sonu, create table emp, id integer, name, age 3. Example to connect Java application with MySQL database. In this example, Sonu is the database name, root is the username and password both. So import java.sql class MySQL connection, public static void main, string arguments, try, class.forName, com.mysql.jdbc.driver, connection, con equal to driver manager dot get connection, jdbc mysql localhost, database name, root statement, stmt equal to con dot create statement, result set rs equal to stmt dot execute query, select from emp, while rs dot next system dot out dot println, rs dot get int, rs dot get string, rs dot get string, con dot close, catch exception e, system dot out dot println e. The above example will fetch all the records of emp table. To connect Java application with the MySQL database, MySQL connector.jar file is required to be loaded. So two ways to load the jar file: paste the MySQL connector.jar file in JRE library exit folder or set class path. So paste the MySQL connector.jar file in JRE library exit folder. Download the MySQL connector.jar file. Go to the folder and paste the jar file here. Otherwise, you can set class path.